Hi everyone, it's the Gary Neville Podcast, live from Old Trafford, which is emptying now gradually after what became, in the second half certainly, Gary, a very watchable game between Manchester United and Arsenal, which was drawn. What did you make of it?
Yeah, the first half was a really strange game where United didn't offer anything and then go in at half-time 1-0 up and score the goal. Interesting how United scored in the first half and I think their performance was better in the second, and Arsenal scored in the second half and their performance was better in the first. Some of the old sort of patterns of problems for these two teams appeared on the day. I think we saw that United in the first half looked really void of confidence, didn't they? They just looked like they were waiting to get beat, but the team that were playing against them couldn't really create anything. They're recycling it really well. Some of the passing from the back and through midfield to the edge of the United box was decent, but they came up against the United team that was sort of quite well organised in that 5-4-1, and they couldn't get through it. Arsenal didn't have the innovation, they didn't have the sort of one-on-one ability in wide areas, and they didn't also have, I think, a centre forward who can make the runs alongside Manchester United centre backs who had that sort of killer eye for goal. And Marino's doing a good job up there, sort of filling in. But it hit home in the first half, particularly when Arsenal had 70% of the ball. United didn't really attack at all until well into injury time in the first half. What a problem Arsenal have and why they're so far behind Liverpool, and it's cost them a Premier League title. And I've said it over the last few weeks, I think these players can feel let down. I think the manager can feel let down. I think they should have been supplied over the last year or so with a striker. And I'm not talking about a striker. I mean, striker could have got injured, but Havertz and another striker and Jesus. So for me, they've left themselves woefully short of attacking players. They have had injuries, but you've got to plan for that. You know, the reason we had 4 centre forwards back in the day, the reason Liverpool have got 6 forwards now that can interact and play, and Darwin Núñez can come on yesterday and, you know, pick up the pieces of someone else who doesn't quite hit the form on the day, is because you need that in a season. You need to be able to call upon people and rely upon your bench and your squad. And Arsenal, I think, have fallen short, and it was more evident in the first half, I think, than ever.
I asked you this a bit in the game, and it maybe sounds like a naive question, but I do think people are interested. Marino's playing centre forward. You're willing to say he's a very, very good footballer. He's not doing anything, quotes, wrong. No. But what is it that's missing? What does what you might call a qualified striker have that Mikel Marino doesn't have?
Well, it becomes obvious when you start to think, well, what would happen if Thierry Henry was up there, or Robin van Persie, or even Lacazette and Aubameyang in the last few years? You know, it's just basic. I mean, he's doing a job up there. He's controlling it. He's passing it wide, but he's not living on the shoulder. He's not smelling moments in behind. He's doing the basics right. He's filling in. He's not a centre forward. If you put someone up there who could link with people better, who could make runs in behind, who could score goals, whose job it is been all their lives to score goals, then you just see a direct advantage straight away. And Arsenal have needed this for a couple of years. They've been woefully short in that department, and I just don't know why they've ended up in this position. And Marino, look, he's doing a good job. This is not a criticism of Marino or any of the players. They may be able to improve in wide areas as well, but I think Trossard, Martinelli, Saka, Nwaneri, I think they're good enough. I think between them, they've got some decent wide players. I think Ødegaard's a good, off the front player. I think Rice makes good runs from midfield, and we've seen him contribute in attacking areas today. Marino can obviously do that as well, but they lack a focal point up top that can do the job for them.
And do you believe that is the single, or at least the single most important reason why Liverpool have got away from Arsenal?
Yeah, better attacking options. I think Liverpool don't have to play well to rely upon their front six to deliver. Liverpool can play deep. Liverpool have, in certain games, you've seen play 3 or 4 different styles. Sometimes they go direct, sometimes they'll play deep and play counter-attack. Arsenal can't even counter-attack. So Arsenal can't counter-attack, and when they have the ball in possession in the final third, they can't really innovate and play through. So the 2 ways you score goals in games, three ways, is set pieces, and set pieces they've been pretty good at. Weren't that great today, but set pieces they're doing well on. The other 2 areas that you mainly score goals from is when you're in possession dominating the game as a top team, or when you're counter-attacking and you can really go quickly. They find themselves always having to come back and recycle and play it across the field. And predictable, safe. They're doing a good job at times, but they need players who can interact with each other and quicken up the play in the final third, and that's what really good and top players do. And Liverpool just better in the final third than them, and the attacking metrics show that Arsenal are very good defensively, even though I thought in the second half today United, to be fair, had 3 or 4 big chances, but they still, through their goalkeeper and back four, only concede 1 goal.
We'll tidy up the rest of the top of the table, Liverpool, Forest and City afterwards, but perhaps we should deal with Manchester United first. Was there something there to encourage you today?
A little bit. I mean, I'd like to touch on the Manchester United goal,
of course,
on the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's strange, really. I mean, Arsenal are quite a wise team, and they're usually cute. And I just thought they got. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the referees pushed them back too far, which is a mistake. But ordinarily, you would start to sense you're too far away, and you start to creep forward, and they didn't do that. And it ends up that Bruno Fernandes has that ability to play it over the wall. So I think that's something that needs mentioning. Coming on to United. They don't like playing here at the moment. This is it's a struggle for them. There's just a sort of weight on their shoulders that exists that means that they find it difficult. But they can in moments when they get a goal, all of a sudden just rise. And you saw that. Second half, I thought they played some decent stuff. I mean, they're obviously still up against it at times with Arsenal, but they created some big moments. There's some big chances out there for United. Raya made some great saves. Højlund, again, demonstrates why he's just not quite sharp enough in front of goal. I think he could have got the shot away quicker when Declan Rice tackles him. His touch could have been a little bit to the left. But I think Ruben Amorim will be really happy with the second half. I'm just looking here at expected goals that we're looking at on your sheet. United have got higher expected goals than Arsenal in that game. And that doesn't surprise me because I think some of the chances that United had in the second half were big. I thought that was a good second half for United. I mean, they didn't score in the second half, but I thought the performance was so much better. I think United fans can live with that. If they're defending deep, but then there's still a threat going forward, that isn't a problem. I think the first half is a problem when you're defending deep and you offer nothing. I mean, the first shot on goal was Bruno's free kick. It was a great free kick. But, yeah, I think the second half was a lot better. I think Ruben Amorim, after this last... it could have gone really badly wrong for him this week. You think about after Fulham last week and going out of the FA Cup, you could see that maybe if they get beat in Sociedad and then obviously come here and get beat, it would have been a real dampener coming into the next game at Old Trafford next Thursday against Real Sociedad, which is the return leg. But actually, I think they'll feel a little bit more confident leaving the stadium tonight, the United players. What could have been a difficult few days, actually I think has been a decent few days for them. And, we've got to remain calm because there were still elements of that performance which were well short, but at least they got the result and they did pick up in the second half.
Yeah, and he spoke, I thought, interestingly this week. He always has something interesting to say, doesn't he, Ruben Amorim, about scarred players. I mean, and I guess that plays into what you're saying about the difficulty of playing here in front of 70,000 with all the same old expectation, but without the sort of underbelly of success and self-belief and all of that. And he spoke of anxiety. And maybe to some extent that second half was a little bit of a healing second half.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, half-time, I said just after half-time that I think Ruben Amorim goes in at half-time and says, look, lads, what are you worried about? Just play. The goal gives him something to be able to obviously encourage them on. They feel like they've got something to sort of play to and hang on to. And also that Arsenal couldn't hurt them. That's the one thing I think Ruben Amorim will have been saying at half-time is, look, you've sat back there and Arsenal have thrown everything at you in terms of possession, but they've not been able to break you down. That next step is just show a little bit of confidence in your attack. And I thought through Garnacho and I think through Bruno Fernandes, I think Xerxes as well, there were moments in that second half where I thought that they could sort of build on a little bit in terms of confidence. But you're absolutely right. They are void of confidence, and this place is huge. I mean, the stadium's big. It's the biggest stadium in the country when it comes to, obviously, Premier League and league football. And it's an expectant crowd, and the microscope is on you all the time. You can't get away from it. But that's why they signed here. That's what they wanted. That's the glory that comes with scoring the winner and the celebrations and the obviously healthy pay packet as well. So you can't have it always. You need to be able to make sure that the sort of negative will come if you don't perform. But I actually thought in the second half there was some decent stuff. I thought the back five stuck at the task. I thought Casemiro actually had one of his better games in central midfield with Bruno Fernandes. So there were some positives, I think. And look, the big game is obviously this week now on Thursday, and Real Sociedad are going to be tough. But I thought they did well in the first 65, 70 minutes last week over in Spain. And there's something to build on. And can they finish the season stronger and have a run in the Europa League, that's going to sort of make or break Ruben Amorim's end to the season, and whether he can end the season well and go into next season with a little bit more confidence. But yeah, it wasn't a bad day for United. I thought it was a worse day for Arsenal, and I'm disappointed in them. I'm disappointed in United. Let's be clear, they're 15th in the league. But I'm really disappointed in Arsenal that they've not been able to sort of really motor on this season from what has been 2 really good seasons of progression for them. This one's a step back.
So, of course, it plays into Liverpool's storyline beautifully from their perspective. And actually, they trailed at half-time yesterday, which was momentarily a point of interest. I don't suppose you ever thought they were going to lose that game. But just because you've been there, just talk to me about walking away with a title. I know you didn't walk away with all of your titles, but 1 or 2 you did.
Yeah.
And how Liverpool deal with it, particularly in the context of their big European game this week.
I mean, look, they have got big games coming up thick and fast, but actually I think it's going to be a positive for Liverpool that they've got these big games. They haven't got time to stop and think. It'll be a hell of a game, Anfield this week. It'll be a brilliant game. I mean, the atmosphere will be sensational. Liverpool will be right up for it. They won't be complacent in the league, but they've got this. They've got this title. This title's in their hands. I mean, at the end there, you're thinking when it's 1-1, they've not just got one hand on the trophy. The ribbons and the colours are being changed, as we speak, and the engravers actually started to put the first L on the trophy, which is a painful thought. But I have to say that I think that the Premier League title is massive for Liverpool Football Club. Winning the title is big. We know winning the Champions League is big for Liverpool and the European Cup, but we know that winning titles is really a sort of bread and butter and the foundation of what you're about. And, to get level with United on titles and be 20 all, and to win a title in Arne Slot's first season, I think for those players like Van Dijk and Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson who'll be winning the second title, winning 2 titles, you're starting to get into sort of a serious level of player. And I think an achievement as well. So I think it's really big for Liverpool. I think they'll be so focused. They'll have little scares like yesterday. That just happens. But I think they've got enough now confidence within them, the way in which the momentum's going their way, and the others are well behind them in terms of their dipping. They're going further behind, let alone catching them up. So I think Liverpool have got this in the bag. I think they'll win it. They'll win it, I think, in April. I don't think it'll go to May. And then obviously the Champions League is a different story. That's a one-off game. I'm not quite sure I see Liverpool winning the Champions League. You can never write them off in that competition, but I don't quite see it. It wouldn't surprise me, actually, if they went out this week. PSG, I think it's a 50-50 game. Liverpool can easily win, but so could PSG. They're a good side.
Wouldn't be right, I don't think, to finish this weekend without Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to be there yesterday, and Anfield aside, for my money, it's the feel-good ground in the Premier League. It was wonderful there yesterday. The sun was shining. The belief amongst the supporters was tangible, and they beat the champions.
Oh, they feel like something special is happening. Even a few weeks ago, I just thought they'll do well to hang on. Chelsea, City, Villa, all those teams up there sort of vying for those spots, but they're more than hanging in there. They're sort of a few points clear in that position now, and you're thinking there's still 10 games to go, so nowhere near in the sort of comfort that Liverpool have in terms of winning the league. They've got a big job to do still, but their confidence is growing. And it would be an incredible achievement. It really would be an incredible achievement for Nottingham Forest to finish in the Champions League spaces this season. When you think of the clubs that are sort of spent billions trying to get into the Champions League football and almost assume it as their right, it's causing them enormous problems that clubs like Bournemouth and Brighton and Nottingham Forest are popping up and recruiting well and doing well and outperforming their sort of squad cost compared to the Chelseas and Manchester Uniteds, Tottenhams of this world. So yeah, it's still a bit to go, but something special is brewing there this season, and I hope they do it.
Yeah, and I guess that battle for third, fourth, fifth is kind of the key one that remains in our narrative this season.
Did Chelsea win? I didn't see Chelsea because I was
Chelsea won 1-0. I think, yeah.
So how's it finished now today then? Let's have a quick look. Just sometimes when we're preparing for this game, we don't quite see what's going on with the table. There you go. Chelsea won 1-0. Right, where we go. Let's get to standings. Apologies for this. Oh, Chelsea got up into 4th, City are 5th. Yeah, so look, 2 points. Forest are 2 points clear of Chelsea and 4 points clear of City. There's still quite a long way to go. You've got 10 games. So there's still a job to do. The 5th place could get into the Champions League, obviously, as well. So I wouldn't say that for Nottingham Forest it's a done deal. It's far from it. But they're in with a great shout, but they've got Chelsea and I think City on the heels. Villa are obviously up 6 points behind them as well. I think they're dangerous, Villa. They could finish the season well. I always think Unai Emery is one of those people that he could just grow towards the end of the season. They've just got to keep an eye on it. I mean, there's one season I was at Leicester on the last day of the season, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I think United just got into the Champions League.
It was COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, ahead of Leicester.
Stadium,
and it was really hard for Leicester at that point because they felt like they deserved it. Nottingham Forest just got to make sure that they just don't fall into that trap, but they'll be doing their best.
Yeah, and of course Newcastle have to play West Ham tomorrow, which leads me to our final issue, just to throw it forward a week, Carabao Cup final. Just a word on that to carry us into this pre-Cup final week.
I mean, it goes without saying who I want to win, but not just necessarily because of Liverpool and the obviously rivalry with Manchester United, but just the fact that Newcastle winning a trophy, Tottenham winning a trophy, Everton winning a trophy, Villa winning a trophy. These clubs that have gone, it feels like years and decades without winning trophies, that have been starved of action. You just feel like, imagine the atmosphere if Newcastle were to do something. So, look, I think Liverpool are big favourites. They're in such great form. They look really solid all the way through. But I hope it's a great game. The game I did there a few years ago, United just blew them away in the first half an hour and scored went 2-0 up, I think, in the first half, and it became a little bit sort of sorry as a day really for Newcastle fans who travelled all that way in the end, and they've just got to be careful next week. Stay in the game till late on, but that'll be tough because Liverpool are firing on all cylinders and they'll want trophies, they want medals. There's some players out on that pitch like Salah and Van Dijk who you just don't see coming off as losers. That's the problem that Newcastle have.
Sure. Well, we'll look forward to that. And Gary will address you from Wembley next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.